would enjoy listening to. So let's make that something we do put a bit of time into. But Kerry, before all of that, first of all,
Yep.
thanks for sitting down with me. It's pretty cool.
Oh, thank you for asking.
I've obviously been chasing you for a little while now before you went and hung out with Richard Branson on his private island, you bitch. But yeah, I just put a random post up tonight, and when your comment was on there, I thought I'm going to jump on this and take advantage. So yeah, look, I definitely appreciate you hanging out.
As well. And I thought, what do I say here? As much exposure as I can get foundation, the better. Let's be honest.
Yeah, 100%. That's right. So look, before all of that though, take me back. So have you always, are you on the Sunshine Coast? Is that right?
Yes, I live in Montville. I'm sitting in my lounge room.
Oh, lovely place. It'd be cold tonight.
It's cool. It's cool, yeah.
Nice.
Got a nice hot fires going in the other room.
All right. So what about growing up? Have you always been on the coast, or where do you stem from?
I was born in Gympie.
Okay.
Went to school in Gympie.
Yeah.
My family from North Queensland, Mission Beach and the Atherton Tablelands. Most of my family, I've still got family in Gympie and more family in Airlie Beach.
Oh, lovely. So all in Queensland then?
All in Queensland. Yeah.
So you spent your whole life in Queensland?
No.
Where'd you go after Gympie? It's only up from there.
Gympie was a great place.
No, it is. It is. It's a great place.
You said is. I said was.
It is. Love Gympie. The best part of Gympie is you've just been through Gympie Sign. That's the best part of Gympie.
That's it.
No, it's not. It's a lovely place.
It's a great place. Where did I go? I went to Melbourne.
How old were you then?
22.
Okay.
Yeah. Then I came back to Queensland. Well, I moved to Brisbane from Gympie. Then I moved to Melbourne at 22. Then
why? Why did you leave? Why did you move to Melbourne?
Because I wanted a promotion with work, and I had to go to Melbourne to get it.
Right. And what sort of work were you doing?
I was working in photographic laboratories then.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, I had a part-time job in Brisbane with Rabbit Photo.
Yeah. Geez, you're showing your age now, Rabbit Photo.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, so are you.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, someone old told me about it.
Oh, yeah, your dad.
That's right. Yeah.
I wanted a full-time job, and the best full-time job that was going was in Melbourne. So I moved
down
to Melbourne.
south. Yeah. Whereabouts? Yeah. In Melbourne itself, or?
Yeah, what's it called? Swanston Street.
Swanston Street.
Yeah, so I went into a dry shop, what was called a dry shop back then, where you used to, now this is really showing the age.
Yeah.
You used to drop your roll of film and put it in the little paper bag and get it back 3 days later. And, you had to work out whether you want a gloss print or matte print, and 5x7 or 6x4. I remember it all.
Wow.
And then a few weeks down there, I got promoted to manage a wet lab where we actually printed the films on site, and that was in Burke Street.
So the difference is a dry lab doesn't do the actual production. It's just to pick up your photos. A wet lab actually does the production. Got it.
And then, so I was there for, 1-2 years or something. And then I went to New Zealand snow skiing and had an accident and buggered up my leg.
How'd you do that?
Snow skiing.
You weren't drunk on the night?
No, it wasn't drunk.
Oh,
I
right.
just decided to do one more run, and it was the fatal one for my knee.
Oh, wow.
So I had to come to Australia and had to have a lot of time off work. And so I had to have surgery. The best surgeon at the time was based here in Nambour.
Okay, at the hospital?
Yeah, he was a private surgeon.
Yeah.
So luckily, Mum and Dad were in Gympie, so I moved back to Queensland, lived with Mum and Dad while I had the operation and 6 months rehab.
Back to Gympie.
Back to Gympie.
Did you feel like you were taking a backward step, or not?
No, at that time, because of my knee, I just thought, how lucky am I? The best surgeon in the country just happens to be in Nambour.
Down the road, yeah.
Mum and Dad in Gympie, so it was nice and easy, and it all worked nicely.
Oh, good one.
And then Kodak approached me and asked me to run one of their labs in Townsville.
Yeah.
Then I went to Townsville hands.
So how long did you stay back in Gympie to get your knee fixed?
6 months.
Okay.
Yeah, I had 6 months rehab.
And that was all good?
That was brilliant. In fact, it's lasted 30 odd years, and I've just had a complete knee replacement at the end of last year.
You've been snow skiing again?
Nope. Only once.
Did you go back? You did go back. Geez, that's brave.
I did go back. Yeah.
Nice.
And I rang my surgeon and I said, can I go skiing? He said, I'll get the theatre ready for the other knee. But I didn't push it. I only went once.
So, okay. So why did Kodak ring you? You're obviously good at what you did.
I must have been good at what I did. And some people, some managers from Rabbit obviously had migrated to Kodak. Yeah.
And said,
so then I went to far North Queensland, Townsville and Cairns.
You were headhunted.
Yeah.
Pay rise, big, decent package, was it?
It was.
Big change from what you were on?
Yeah, I got a house thrown in.
Wow.
So they were the days when companies would provide a house.
Okay.
Yeah, so for a young girl in her 20s, I was doing.
That's massive. Well. Yeah, that's awesome. Did you?
And then,
okay, so let me sort of, and I mean no disrespect here, but I'm kind of trying to think how long ago that was, because my question is, sorry, go on.
That was in the mid to late 80s.
Okay, because my question is, at what point did you personally start to think this photo thing has a shelf life and we're getting close to it? Did you see it then when you were in the house and the big package and there was all this money being thrown around?
Never thought about it. Never thought about it. I did think, where will it go? Because I was in the days when we went from reel to instant printing. So my first role with Kodak in Townsville was migrating the process from reel to reel printing, like the big 8-track.
Yeah, the big wheels, yeah.
Yeah, into the 1 hour photo lab style.
Because that was a big deal, right? 1 hour photos. Massive. That was massive. I remember at Kmart and all those places, you'd go in and go back in an hour and your photos are done.
That's right. And I think right now about CDs. I remember one Melbourne Cup day, I was living in Melbourne, and somehow got into the conversation about LPs, the old vinyl.
The old vinyl,
CDs.
yeah.
I said, oh, we'll never get rid of the vinyl, you're talking crazy.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we did.
Exactly.
But now we're going back to the vinyl.
And I've got a heap of vinyl and literally thousands of CDs and obviously the books and everything else. And I have a lot of iPod songs, that's fine, but it's just not the same experience. You can't open up and you can't look at their artwork on a iPod, and you can't smell the iPod, and there's a whole experience to it. Do you think that's what we've lost with photos?
No, I actually see photos coming back. I'm watching, and because I'm so interested in the photographic process, and taking it to Necker a little bit, the photographer that we had on Necker Island, she still photographs on film.
So you can't see immediately the photo like you can with, yeah, right.
With digital. and with and I don't want to promote any particular brand, but Snapfish and the Apple, where now I personally, because we have so many photographs on our computers and our telephones, now I make it my business to print out a photo book. So, okay, I don't have the album, but I make a photo book and I can write a story.
Got it. And you get that experience, right?
Yeah, I've still got that experience. I don't have to buy extra iCloud space too much.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I was chatting with my partner the other day about movies, and we've got Netflix at home, and you know, I can come home from getting 2 DVDs out of those DVD boxes, just 2, and we can make a decision, one or the other. We've only got 2 movies. You can sit down in front of Netflix with literally thousands and thousands of movies, and you can't decide on watching one.
Yeah.
But if I give you 2, you'll make a decision.
That's right. And there's a little bit of FOMO in that, I find. I also have Netflix. And I think, and just, you know, I've just done all these big flights, big long flights and short flights and this one and that one. I think, oh, do I want to watch that movie? And oh, I've only got 7 hours left on this flight. How many movies can I get in? Or if I watch one, I won't get to watch that one. So there's that always that fear of missing out, what I call the FOMO.
Yeah, it's funny, like I was thinking about the other day, but thinking about it again now, it's almost like it's not valuable when you've got all these choices, and Netflix, you've got thousands of movies and you don't value any of them.
Yeah.
But when you've only got 1 or 2, it's like there's a whole different experience that comes with that.
And when you pick up the DVD, Matt, that you've got in your collection, do you and or your partner, does it give you a nice feeling of a memory? Yeah,
it's like when you get a smell, right? And you go, oh, that takes me back, or a song, and that takes me back to, you know, like my father passed away a few years ago now. He was relatively young when he passed away. But I can put a vinyl on, and straight away I remember being 5 years old, you know, sitting next to him listening to vinyls, and it's you don't get that with your iPhone. You know?
No. You know, I remember my first record player because I was into music from such a young age. And Saturday night, jumping around a bit, I was at the fundraiser in Melbourne for Dying for a Cure for Brain Cancer, and they auctioned a guitar owned and signed by Ed Sheeran.
Oh, wow.
Why don't I? No. But
you didn't buy it?
No.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you were the highest bidder.
No.
How much did it go for?
I think it went for 12,000.
Wow.
Or 11. No, sorry, 11.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
No, if it was Keith Urban's guitar, yeah.
Yeah, right. How much would you have paid for Keith Urban's guitar?
Because the money would be going to charity as much as I could afford.
Yeah.
Yeah. Watch this space. Somebody might get the
That's right. Hey, Keith, I got someone that wants to buy a guitar.
Right. But an emotion when and I can't remember his name now, that's horrible. The actor that played Molly Meldrum in the recent...
Oh, yes, Samuel Johnson.
Yes, well, he was there.
Nice.
At the Logies when he won the Gold Logie recently, and Molly went and gave him a hat.
Yeah, he auctioned off the hat.
He auctioned off the
hat
for brain cancer, which his sister doesn't have brain cancer, and that just oh my gosh, you know.
Yeah, that's amazing.
His own sister is fighting her own battle, but he still gave. And that Molly's hat was auctioned, and that actually put a tear to my eye because I remember watching Countdown.
That's right.
You know, I grew up with Molly, loved him. Still
do yourself a favour. Bid on my hat.
Yeah.
That's great.
So,
Well
yeah,
done.
so somebody take that home.
Exactly. All right. So you're doing well you're working for Kodak. You're doing really well. You're in Townsville.
Cairns by then, because I did Townsville and Cairns
Got
for
it.
Kodak.
Got it.
Mm.
And you're mid-20s at this stage?
Yes, 25.
All right. And how long after that or before that did you meet your husband?
Oh, we didn't meet until later in life.
Oh, okay. So what happened after Cairns?
New York.
Serious? How did that come about?
Fell in love with a New Yorker.
Uh-huh. He was over here or you went over there for a holiday or?
No, he was over here in Cairns for a holiday.
Yeah.
And we decided to give it a go after a while, not thinking for a second.
Where did you meet him? Sleazy drunk nightclub?
No, in a Kodak glass.
Oh, was it? He picked you up on the clock.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. And write the whole thing off on tax.
Boss. Otherwise I would have had to dock my own pay.
That's right.
Yeah, no, he came in to get a film developed and he kept asking me the same question over and over again about, so how far down can I take this disposable underwater camera?
Mm.
Yeah, and I thought, oh, I wish this jerk, asked me out for dinner, went out for dinner, and yeah.
How did he ask you out for dinner? How did he do it?
He just said, I'd like to have dinner with you. Would you like to have dinner with me this evening?
So he said, how far down does this camera go? By the way, will you have dinner with me?
Oh, it wasn't quite like that.
Those Americans, they do everything backwards.
Yeah, so...
So you went out to dinner?
Well, I couldn't go for dinner with him because I was already going out for dinner with a group of friends.
I thought you were going to say another bloke.
No. And, I rang my girlfriend that had organised that dinner. I said, would you mind if somebody came? And she said, of course. And I was single, obviously.
Yeah.
And so I said to him, look, this is the name of the restaurant. This is the address, and we'll be there at this time. I'll warn you, there's about 10 of us going, and if you're up for it, I'll be there.
Yeah.
And he turned up.
Geez, you got to give him credit for that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it went from there, and on my 26th birthday, I moved to New York.
Got rid of the Kodak job.
Yep. Sold everything.
Wow.
Sold my car, sold furniture.
Did you have work to go to?
No, well, I didn't have a green card.
So what was the plan? There was no plan.
There was no plan. It was a different world.
Mm.
My gosh, we didn't... Mobile phones, people were still carrying the attaché case and the car telephone.
Yeah.
No internet. Server rooms were still buildings.
Yeah.
We didn't even know what a server room was.
That's right. Yeah. The internet. Was there internet yet? No. There was no dial-up connection? No?
No.
None of that.
In fact, we were still working on telegrams. I remember sending a telegram to my parents, arrived safely. You could only afford one phone call a week. So 1 week we'd phone my parents, the next week they'd phone us. His parents had summer camps. You know how not all, but we grew up watching movies with kids going to summer camp.
Yeah.
They're rich. So
they had
obviously
those.
During the summer in the camp, and during the fall and the winter, I worked in a delicatessen.
Okay.
For $5 an hour, cash.
This is in New York.
Yeah.
Oh, in the heart and soul of New York, because I've been to New York, so I know.
Yeah. That was out in a place called Hartsdale, which is Westchester, just out of Manhattan.
There's money in Westchester.
There's certainly.
That's awesome.
Sorry, my phone ringing.
And all right, so how long were you with this gentleman for?
3 years.
3 years. What happened?
We just realised it wasn't going to work. Not so much the relationship, but the living. I missed home.
Yeah.
I realised when I lived over there how patriotic I am to Australia.
Yeah.
And I became defensive of Australia.
How so?
I remember a couple of girls challenging me Australia's fashion sense.
Okay.
And that we were behind. And I remember having a debate with them saying, well, actually, we're a season ahead of America because we follow Europe and da, da, da. And it got to the point that I said, well, have you ever been to Australia? I said, no. I said, have you ever been to Europe? No.
Yeah.
Well, I have. So I went.
So shut up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And George was in on that conversation, and we got out in the car and he said, my gosh, you're patriotic to Australia. And I'm like, well, here I am. I'm a proud Aussie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Love
but we stayed in contact. In fact, my recent trip to New York a few weeks ago, he and I met up for dinner for the
terrific.
first time face to face after 28 years.
How was that? How was that dinner?
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
Was he still asking you about underwater cameras or?
No, but he remembered.
Did he? That's cool. All right, so went from New York back to mum and dad again, or?
Yeah, back to mum and dad.
You did always back to the default, hey?
Always.
Nice.
My parents always said your kids might leave the house, but they never leave home.
100%. So fast forward, how did you meet your husband?
My husband, we met in a car park in Cole.
Oh, there you go. In whereabouts? In Gympie?
No, in Wynnum, Queensland.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what happened there? Was it one of those he bumped into you like cold feet? Was it one of those things or?
No, I was driving a Jeep before Jeeps were trendy.
You made them trendy, Kerry.
I like that. I'll take that. And I just raced down on a Saturday afternoon because I was doing some gardening and potting, and so you can imagine I was looking ever so glamorous and buying some potting mix. And he offered to help me load it into the back of my Jeep. I said, that's nice.
Oh, good bloke, yeah.
Yeah, and I said, thank you, great. And I just stood back and watched him. I thought, you're a bit of all right. No wedding ring.
Yeah.
And then
Is that what women do? They size us up and look at see if there's a ring and what sort of things are you looking for? Nice butt?
Nice eyes. No, I'm eyes and feet.
Eyes and feet. That's
Eyes
interesting.
Yeah.
And obviously the wedding ring or the lack thereof.
Lack thereof.
And how well he puts potting mix in the back of your Jeep, obviously.
Oh, well, that was a big tick.
Yeah.
Because I'm a bit of a sucker for a gentleman.
Yeah, okay. There's not many of us left.
There's plenty. I'm going to bring that back into fashion too.
Yeah, there you go. I like it.
Yeah. And then the next Saturday afternoon, I was sitting at home and I thought, I just wonder. So I went back down to Coles.
He was there. Are you serious?
He just wondered as well. I'm serious. He just wondered as well.
Oh, so you both drove down there wondering that the other one would be there.
Yeah.
And you were.
And we were.
So what? So you've walked up to each other, and what did he say? What did you say?
I just said, "Oh, hello again." He said, "Oh, hello." I said, "I was wondering if you'd be here today," and he said, "Well, I was having the same thought."
Wow.
And he asked me straight up. He said, "I have to ask." He said, "I noticed you're not wearing a ring on your wedding finger." He said, "Are you married?" I said, "No." He said, "Are you seeing anybody?" I said, "No." And he said, "Great. Would you like to have a drink with me or a coffee?"
Nice.
Yeah.
And there you go.
Yeah.
How long were you married for?
We weren't married for long. We were together for 8 years. Yeah. So fairly late in life.
Yeah. And was he that gentlemanly type of person all the time?
Most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we had very definite male-female roles. in our relationship, but we were able to we could cross over. You know, if Mark didn't like to vacuum, make the bed, or iron clothes.
So he's a male, in other words.
Yeah. But he was great at washing.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he'd do the washing. So, but he got on the vacuum a few times.
Yeah, nice. At what point did you guys realise that he had brain cancer?
That we found out on the 27th of September 2013. No, yeah, 2013.
And
No,
what?
sorry, 11th of September we found out. 9/11. I've always got to remember it. 9/11. He had surgery 27th of September. Yeah.
2013. Okay. And why? Was he experiencing symptoms
Stroke
beforehand?
Yeah, stroke. He hadn't been well, and we actually thought that he may have had the norovirus because he was vomiting, and Mark was not typically a person that vomited. So we rang the 1300 Health, and they said no, he didn't have the right symptoms for that virus at the time. So I thought, oh, okay, and he was going up and down, and I noticed that he wasn't lifting his left arm when he gave me a cuddle. And I said, well, what's with you with this half cuddle? And he said, oh, I don't know. My arm just feels funny. And that was for a week or so. Didn't think too much about it.
Did he still work full-time? Was he a full-time worker at that stage?
No, neither of us were working by then.
Okay.
Mark, and I'll tell you this, on the 4th of April 2011, Mark was involved in a serious motor vehicle smash, and he was smashed up pretty badly. He was hit head on.
He was the motorbike rider?
No, he was in a car.
Yeah.
Did I say motorbike? I meant motor vehicle.
You probably did, sorry.
Yeah, 2 cars, hit head on. The other driver was exceeding the speed limit ridiculously so.
Yeah.
And drugged. And from the injuries, Mark spent a month in a coma.
Wow.
And almost 6 months in hospital, learning to breathe, walk, talk, swallow, all again. So we both stopped work that day because I became Mark's full-time carer.
Yeah.
And through rehab and exercise, etc., he was able to walk again with just one walking stick. So he had defied all odds.
Sure.
From the first 3 weeks while he was in the coma, it was, Mark probably won't live through the night. It went from hours to 12 hours to days. And then they realised this guy's going to live.
He's going to get through this, yeah.
Yeah. So slowly he came out of the coma, and then that's when we started the process of how well can we get his body functioning again. And he could walk around the house with no walking stick, but if he was out in public, he used a walking stick.
Okay.
So then he was never going to be able to work again.
Can I just ask, Kerry, did your relationship change at that point, becoming his full-time carer?
Yeah.
Do you think? How so?
Well, we went from Mark being the male and looking after me as the female, not looking after me, but he was my protector. And, overnight it changed. I had to learn, I didn't have to, I chose to learn how to clean his teeth, how to shave him, bathe him.
Whilst he was in the coma?
Yeah.
For 6 months?
And he was in the coma for a month.
Sorry, a month.
That's okay. And then he was in a bed, oh gosh, 3 months. I think we counted up. It was almost or just over 3 months before his feet hit the floor.
Wow.
And I won't go into the gory details, but when you think, when you wake up in the morning and you need to go to the toilet, what's the first thing that happens? Your feet hit the floor. So,
and if you're not doing that for months and months, right?
yeah. So I stepped in and I did all of that. And then
what did you learn about yourself in that time, do you think?
There's nothing personally. I was proud of what I could do, because even while he was in hospital, not one single nurse, doctor, attendee had to empty his urine bottle.
You were always there.
Yeah, he was my husband. He was a man of integrity, a proud man, and I wasn't going to allow him to lose that. And so that was my way of helping him keep his integrity as a man.
So how long was he in the hospital before you both went home?
6 months.
6 months. And you were there every day?
Every single day.
Wow.
Did not miss a day.
Did you guys, you guys don't have kids, I'm assuming?
No, we didn't. No.
Okay. Was that a choice you made, or it just didn't happen, or?
I wasn't able to have children.
Yeah, okay.
We had 3 pregnancies and it wasn't to be.
Yeah.
And it just never happened for Mark.
Yeah, okay. How were you guys about that? Did you talk about it much?
We talked about it, yeah. We never really asked the question why, because nobody could give us an answer.
Do you know why you can't have kids?
My body just won't carry them.
Okay.
I was born with fallopian tubes that are twisted, and it was just one of those things. My body, my reproductive system didn't form properly. And of course, that's not something that you go looking for until you try to have children.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know until you need to know, right?
No. Yeah, and I had a few operations over the years, none being successful. We looked at adoption, we looked at fostering, and they were all very real possibilities. And then it was after Mark's smash that we moved up here to Montville, and we bought a 5-acre property with the purpose of building cabins so that people that had been affected with trauma in a traumatic way, or children that needed homes, we would be able to provide. We said, well, this is why all this has happened. We haven't got our own children, but we can provide for other children or other young adults that maybe haven't got the privileges of great parents like we had.
Got it.
But we were here 6, so I'm going on to the next part of it.
Yeah, no, that's good.
If I'm preempting your question. After the smash, we moved here to Montville, and we were here 6 weeks. We started building the pool straight away, because we said, well, if there's going to be kids, there's got to be a pool. And we both needed the pool for exercise. And it was 6 weeks after we got here, we started to notice Mark's left side was becoming paralysed. We didn't know at the time, we learnt later he was having petit mal seizures, where he'd just blank out. You'd be talking to him and he was somewhere else. And I said, Mark, I've just asked you a question. He said, yes, I'll get back to you. I'm still trying to process that.
Wow.
Which were not words Mark would normally use. So I took him to a local doctor who we didn't know. And she said, I think you've had a stroke. I think you need to take him to A&E. So I took him to A&E at Nambour, and I thought, I'm not going to be able to get him into the hospital. I'm just going to have to drive up to the ambulance bay, and I was scared. I thought, oh, they're going to go mad at me, and I'll just have to explain. And I drove up. The staff were tremendous. They came out. They realised there was a problem for me to have to drive up there. They got him in, thought, yes, he's had a stroke. We'll give you a CT scan. So we're there all day. And then about 6:30, 7 o'clock that night, they said, we're going to take you for a CT scan to find out what type of stroke you've had, and then we'll work out a plan.
Okay.
The surgeon, the doctor came back. We were in the cubicle, and we were talking about...
Before you go on, can I just ask, where's your head, and maybe Mark's head at this stage? You've been in the emergency room all day. What's going on for you? Where's your head at this stage?
We were having a conversation about him having had a stroke, and we were making our plan already. Who do we know? We knew a few people that had had strokes. One was Mark's pain management specialist. And we said, well, we've got Dr. So-and-so. Okay, we'll just have to make some changes and we'll find out what rehab. So he and I were already making plans.
Making plans, yeah.
How we were going to tackle him having a stroke and what sort of rehab he would have to go through. And we were saying, well, you can still speak. So that's okay. You can still walk a little bit. And we actually got to the point where we talked about putting a brace on his leg. So he's laying on the gurney, with bloody curtains.
Yeah.
Sorry, shouldn't swear. And then the doctor comes in and he grabs a chair and sits down. And I said, well, it must be bad news if you've got to
sit down.
And he said, well, you better sit down as well. And the look he gave me, and I'll swear here, was, you stupid bitch. And I just sort of got knocked back. And he talked directly to Mark. It was as if I wasn't there. And which was, great respect to Mark. And he said, Mark, well, mate, you haven't had a stroke. It's actually worse than that. And we're like, well, what could be worse? And he said, you've got 2 malignant brain tumours. And, in the movies where the other person gasps and that lets out that horrible squeal, I did that.
You did that.
And Mark just grabbed my hand and he said, JJ, that was his nickname for me. He said, JJ, there's other people here. Keep it down. We'll be all right. We'll get through it.
Wow. Even in that moment.
Even in that moment. Yeah. So then the doctors said.
What did he say to the doctor after that?
Nothing. Mark just couldn't speak. And he just looked at me and he said, you speak. And I said, how do you know that they're malignant with just a CT scan? Remembering Mark and I knew CT scans, we knew MRIs.
Yeah, you'd been through it, right?
We'd been through all that. And he said, we just know by looking at it. And I thought, no point asking any more questions because he's got no idea, really. And that's not to be arrogant, but I thought that's a really stupid answer to give me.
Especially after dropping that news, right?
Yeah. But in hindsight, he didn't know what I already knew. He didn't know what Mark had been through.
What you guys had been through, yeah.
Yeah. So in respect to him, he thought we were just 2 middle-aged people coming off the street.
Sure.
That had never been in a hospital maybe before. He said, and this was the other silly thing, and I still think it was silly of him. He said, I'm going to go away and leave you two to process this information now. And he left us there. And Mark said to me, what are we supposed to process? All he's told us is that I've got these two bleeps in my head, and you can imagine the language.
Yeah.
What do we process? He said, we've just worked out how I'll live with a stroke.
That's right.
I don't know how to live with a brain tumour and two. So then we just sat and waited. And then the process started.
Can I ask how old was Mark at that point?
48.
Wow.
48.
Okay. And so you've gone home back to you didn't go home. What happened?
He was rushed down to Brisbane, to the Royal Brisbane Hospital. They gave him medication immediately because of where the tumours were and the size of them. They said he would be dead within 3 hours. So that's at 7:30. So they were telling me that my husband was going to be dead by 10:30. So they got these drugs, miracle drugs, into him that decreased the swelling of the tumours, and they got him through to Brisbane. They didn't want me down there that night because they needed to do a whole heap of tests. It was late at night. It was midnight before they evacuated him from the hospital. So they sent me home. I had to pack bags because they said you'll be down there for a while. So I came home, packed bags. We'd only moved here 6 weeks prior.
So let me jump in there. So you drove from the Brisbane hospital back to the Sunshine Coast?
No, it was all in Nambour.
Oh, it was still in Nambour. He hadn't been rushed to Brisbane?
No. So they took him to Brisbane that night.
Okay.
And so I went from Nambour Hospital to Montville.
Yeah. Got some stuff, went back to Nambour.
Yeah. No, it didn't go to Nambour. I stayed at Nambour until they evacuated him to Brisbane.
Yeah.
And they said, you go home, get some stuff together, be at the hospital 6 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Got it. So you drive back home, and then the next morning or even that night, I'm really interested to know where were your thoughts at?
I just knew that I had to keep it together to get to Brisbane. So my thoughts, I only allowed my thoughts to go as far as arriving safely at the Royal Brisbane Hospital. I didn't allow my thoughts to go too far ahead. I rang my sister because Mum and Dad had passed years before. My sister is my go-to person.
Where's she based?
Gympie.
Yeah. Surprise, surprise.
She has 2 daughters in Brisbane. So, yeah, it's all a bit of a blur. No, I think I stayed in a hotel the first couple of nights while Mark was in hospital.
Okay, yeah.
So I think, gosh, was that a Wednesday? Yeah, that was a Wednesday.
How do you know that it was a Wednesday? You just do.
Check it.
Yeah.
Check it. Go back to the calendar to 2013 and see if the 11th of September was a Wednesday.
Let me see if I can do that.
I could be wrong, but I doubt it.
All right, 2013. It was in September.
Yeah.
The
11th,
wasn't it? It was a Wednesday. You're incredible.
Yes.
Wow.
So he was scheduled to, he just had so many MRIs and oncologists, blah, 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 blah. And the way the medical profession is today, you don't have one doctor. You have one doctor for this part, one doctor for that part, and one doctor for oh. And again, because of the car smash, we were already prepared for all that.
You've been through
that
it.
part. Yeah. So I had my trusty notebook and pen when I arrived at 6 o'clock at the hospital and writing everything down. He was scheduled for brain surgery on the Friday. We met with the surgeon. I interviewed her, and her name's Wendy. And she said, "How did this turn into you interviewing me?" I said, "Because you're the neurosurgeon. You're the one that's going into my husband's brain." And she went, "Okay, fair enough."
What were you wanting to find out from the interview? I
wanted to know her commitment. I remember asking her how she became a neurosurgeon. You know, what was her passion to become what made her want to be a neurosurgeon. I asked her what her parents did. Where the heck did that come from? I don't know.
She had a good upbringing.
Yeah. I won't say what her parents do because that would give away her identity.
Okay.
But they're not what you would expect to be of a neurosurgeon's parents. She is still married to a spinal surgeon.
Wow.
And he assisted her in Mark's operation. So that was all good. We both gowned up and they allowed me right through to where only the patients usually get to go to. And a nurse was assigned to Mark when you're going in for surgery of that seriousness. And he gave us a lot of tips, gave Mark a lot of tips about going into anaesthetic. And it was on and on. I said to him quietly when Mark couldn't hear, I said, "How come I'm allowed in here and other partners aren't?" And he said, "Do you really understand the seriousness of this operation?" And I said, "Well, I know there's only 5% chance of Mark surviving." He said, "Well, don't you want every minute with your husband?" I said, "Oh, yeah. You know." So they were thinking of things that we hadn't thought of.
That's a good answer, isn't it?
Yeah. And we got a phone call, or the area got a phone call that this is a little bit, this is very political. One nurse had called in sick, and because Mark would automatically go into intensive care after the surgery, as all brain surgeries do, but they were going to be one nurse short in ICU that night because budgets had just been cut by the government. So Mark's surgery and surgical team had to be stood down. So he went from being a code red, meaning if he didn't have the surgery, he'd die, to, "Sorry, we're going to have to do the surgery next week." And that was the lowest point for us because I could not understand, how can you say my husband's going to die without the surgery and then say, "Oh, because we don't have a nurse to put ice in his mouth after the surgery." And sorry to nurses, they do a lot more than that, obviously. We'll do it next week.
And is that what happened?
That's exactly what happened. And we even said, "We'll pay for the nurse. We'll pay her week's wages if that's what it takes." And they just de-gowned us both. And why I was gowned up was because I was to wait outside the surgery in case something happened and Mark was going to die in the surgery. They would bring him to and I could go in and say goodbye to him. But anyway, so we de-gowned and we walked out of the hospital.
So what does Mark do for a week?
So I remember we had a big fight walking back to the B&B that we were staying at. And then we got back there and had a cup of tea and he said, "I'm really sorry. I just realised that this is just as hard for you as it is for me." And we both said, "Gosh, we we've got to make the most of this week. We've been given another week. And so we came home, and in that week, because we told all the things that could happen to Mark, lose his personality, become angry, not remember me, not remember anything, not know himself, not know what he likes, have a change of personality. So we made lists and lists and lists. And we had a list of all the things he really liked in life and the 3 things that he didn't like. We put signs on the different cars and motorbikes.
Well, you can't brush over that, Kerry. What were those 3 things that he liked and the 2 he didn't like?
There's one particular football player that he didn't like.
Oh, true. Tell us who that was.
He wears a blue Guernsey or jersey. What are they called now?
Jersey. Was it Paul Gallen? It was. No one likes Paul Gallen.
No one likes Paul Gallen.
No, but he is such a, behind closed doors, he is such a, he's a really nice person, and he does a lot. He does a lot for other people.
Yeah.
But I think it's almost like he likes to take all the heat because it takes it off other people.
Yeah.
And when you think of it like that, you go, well, this guy's actually quite a nice guy, even though he's an arsehole.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
Mark just didn't like his whinging.
Sure.
But when you say it like that, he goes into bat for the other players.
100%.
Always.
Mm.
But the poor bloke, it's like, oh, all right, Paul, go and have your whinge, and then we can get on with the game.
Keep playing. That's right.
Salmon, he didn't like salmon. He liked all food, but he didn't like to eat salmon.
Wow.
And he didn't like Ford cars.
Ford cars. What did he like? What were the 3 things he did like? You?
Oh, lots of things that he liked. He was a Holden boy.
Mm.
Harleys, Triumphs, Guzzies.
Did he have a bike?
Oh, yeah.
Did he?
Yeah, when he passed, he had 3.
Oh, serious?
He had 2 Harleys and a Triumph.
Oh, wow. That's impressive.
Yeah, he was a bike boy.
Mm.
He won trophies for one of his Harleys.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'd love to see the photo. I'm in the process of, at the moment, it's in the thought process of getting a Triumph. My old man had a Norton 600 years ago. A Norton.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got married to my mother with 2 broken arms and a broken leg.
He knew the wrong people. He was sub-40.
No, he got hit. He got hit by a car going around a roundabout.
Oh,
But he proposed to Mum on the hospital bed, and they got married. And he walked down the aisle with 2 broken arms and a broken leg. It was destined for failure. Okay, so he loved his bikes then.
Yeah, loved his bikes.
That's cool.
Yeah, bikes and cars, and he restored classic cars.
Yeah.
And that was a big part of his rehabilitation after the car smash.
I bet. So what did you do in that week?
We made lists, as I said. We put signs on a lot of the cars and bikes. We talked, and Mark and I were always great communicators. We made up signs, but like physical signs, for him to know who I was in case he didn't remember me.
Does the dog want to come in or go out?
It's probably an animal or a koala. They're outside. Or they do that sometimes. They pretend that they're barking at something, so I let them in.
They just wanted to be on the interview, I think.
Probably.
Okay, so why are you putting signs everywhere?
In case that he didn't remember
He
things.
forgets, yeah.
Yeah, and because if his personality changed, because he had a tumour on the frontal lobe, which is where our personality is, and he had a tumour back here, which is that the temporal?
Not sure.
Temporal? Yeah, I forget. So I would, and if he didn't recognise me, we needed signs to prove to him
Who you were.
who I am.
Like 50
And that he
first
did
dates.
know me. Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, and we had a lot of friends. A girlfriend flew up from Tasmania, and she said, she contacted me on the Friday when we thought he was having the surgery, and she said, I know you'll say no, but I've already booked the flight. I've organised a car. I can stay with you or I can stay somewhere else. I'm coming up to look after everything so you can look after Mark. I said, thank you.
They're the friends you need in your life.
Yeah. So, and, you know, she has a husband and 4 children.
Wow.
And so she did that. A lot of friends came. We talked a lot. We talked about his funeral, possible funeral. He went shopping, and
Was he a shopper?
yep,
He was.
on the internet. He was an internet shopper.
What sort of things would he buy on the internet?
Cars.
Cars.
Cars, motorbikes.
Did he buy another bike in that week? No. Did he buy a car in that week?
He put a deposit on a Viper.
That's impressive.
So he put a deposit on a Viper, and I said, well, if you come out of this, and I had an MG, I still have the MG. And he said, JJ, he said, I'm going to buy you this Viper, but you have to sell the MG. I said, why would I sell an MG to buy a Viper? You know, the work out the maths.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. And he said, because it's ridiculous, a woman having 2 convertibles. I said, you've got more than 2 brain tumours in there, mate.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we made a deal that if he came through the operation and was able to drive again, we'd buy the Viper.
Yeah.
But we never bought the Viper.
So in that week, did you guys talk about, or did you think about how long you thought Mark would have? Didn't get spoken about?
Not that week, no. Because he was either going to die or live in that operation. It was as simple as that.
Right.
Yeah. He only had a 5% chance of survival. So the fact that they were even doing the operation was a miracle.
That's a big plus, exactly. And if all right, that's fine. What's one of the things you remember most about that week?
How good he got. Because of the drug that they had him on that decreased the swelling, and the drug itself is quite controversial. Some people say it's a fantastic drug, some say it's not. And it's commonly used for a whole heap of different things. But it gave Mark back Mark. It gave me back Mark. It gave Mark back himself. And that week he got full use of his arm. His cognitive skills came back, because with the 2 tumours, he wasn't even able to make a cup of coffee.
Yeah, right.
He couldn't put, and it's hard to describe, Matt. He knew how to make a cup of coffee, but to get it from the brain, to get the information from the brain to actually doing it, it was the worst cup of coffee ever. And he kept till he passed.
Yeah.
He'd say, I've made a cup of coffee, do you want to try it? And he said, it looks like shit.
Yeah.
And I taste it and I go, I've never tasted shit, but I think this is
It's pretty close. Oh, good on him. Did he keep his sense of humour in that time?
Always.
Yeah.
Always. I could tell you so many funny stories.
Yeah.
So many. And, you know, some of my friends we still talk about his funny stories.
Yeah.
And, you know, we'd have parties and get-togethers. We've got a big back deck here, and the bedroom opens out onto the back deck. And there was a big party here one weekend, and Mark would just disappear. and go to bed. And my friend Tamara, she walked inside. She told me the story later, and she walked inside and she said, "You all right, Marky?" "Yeah, okay." And he says, "Can I swear?" He said, "Listen to those silly dickheads out there. Listen to the shit they're talking about." And she said, "Oh, you stupid bastard, are you playing possum?" He said, "Yeah, I'm not getting involved in that stupid shit out there." Yeah, it just, and he really saw people.
Yeah.
If Mark was, and he was a quiet bloke, but he'd get this look on his face and you'd think, "Oh, you're just summing everybody up." Yeah, what's going through your head?
I wish I'd met him.
Yeah.
I think I would have got along with him quite well.
Yeah, he was a good bloke. Yeah,
All right, so you go back to the hospital a week later, and I'm assuming the whole thing kicks off again. You're in the gown, he's in the gown, he's going through into that special room again.
Yeah.
But this time there's no one gonna say they're sick that day.
Nope, everyone's well. And we're sitting waiting, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? And then he gets called and they take him through. And there's a point where I can't go any further. And so when they told us, oh, thank God it's going to happen. Because all you're thinking about is got to get this crap out of his head.
Did you guys have did you make sure you had a good goodbye with Mark before that? Or did you guys not do that?
Didn't do it.
Yeah. Was that a conscious decision or didn't think about it?
Didn't think about it.
Okay.
The last thing we said to each other that day was, "I love you."
He
said, "See you on the other side." And you'll often see me in my posts, always the thumbs up. He was a thumbs up guy. And we gave each other the thumbs up. And to my surprise, I collapsed. Soon, and I'll never forget them wheeling him around the corner. And that's when I collapsed. As he
went around the corner and then you didn't see him.
Yeah.
Was someone else with you then, Kerry?
All the nurses.
Yeah. Your sister wasn't there or anything like that?
No. Because nobody was allowed. I had friends waiting outside, but nobody was allowed into the area.
Okay. Yeah.
And the nurses got me a cup of tea. I calmed down and yeah, that was all right. And then worst day of my life. I think that day was worse than the day he died.
What happened that day?
Emotions.
Yeah.
As far as emotions go, because it's a 10-hour operation. And they have a monitor in there, a communications thing, so that they can just log outside. I'm saying they, say the receptionist of the theatre can log in and check where they're at the operation. So before they even start the operation, they've got to get Mark positioned correctly because his head has to be put into a vice so that it stays still, and he's got to be awake for that. And you know what these people have to go through, Mark and anyone else with brain cancer. Bloody hell. They have to be so brave.
Oh, I was going to say exactly that word. Yeah.
They have to be so brave.
It's incredible.
Yeah. So I'll take you to the good part.
Yeah, do that.
After 10 hours of surgery.
Yeah.
And to the point where even the receptionist, who's not the receptionist, but
yeah,
Kerry, I don't know why this is taking so long. By that time, I'd got on the telephone to a friend of ours who is an ICU nurse. And I said to her, "Joanne, can you come? up to the RBH, please? I said, because Mark's already been in surgery for 10 hours. When I go into ICU, he is going to be on that breathing machine again. He's going to have all those pipes. I know how bad that looks, and I don't know if I can do it on my own.
Mm.
She was in the car, and she came in when they told us that we could go in and see him. And that was about 8 o'clock at night. So we're up to 14 hours by this stage. And she's holding my hand. And then she grabbed my elbow to hold me up. Because to see somebody in intensive care with all those tubes and everything, it's 10 times worse than what you see on ER and those stories.
I bet.
And I walked in, Mark's sitting up, sort of propped up a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know angles, but he's got his bandage turban on.
Yeah.
And his purple gown.
Yeah.
He's talking to the nurse about cars and motorbikes.
You're joking. What a surprise.
And I was just, oh my gosh. And I went down again, but this time with happiness.
Wow.
And oh, good, JJ, you're here. Can you fix up the pillows the way I like them, please? I said, I'll dance on your bloody pillows.
Wow.
And he had come through perfect.
Yeah.
And then
That's
another
awesome.
nurse came up that was in the surgery or in recovery or something. And she said to him, you had Hungry Jacks for tea last night, didn't you? He said, did we? I said, yeah. And he said, yeah, we did. I had a double blah, 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 Whopper burger and whatever.
Yeah.
And he said, how did you know? She said, because that's what you vomited up.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah. So,
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, and they let me stay in there with him that night, and he came home. He wasn't even in hospital a week after that. And they gave me, he had staples all through his head because he was cut from here down. I can't remember now if it was round the back or round the front, but round to about here. And they sent us home on I think it was a Thursday after, so not quite a week, with a little package, sterile package all sealed. So what's this for? And they said, oh, that's so you can take the staples out. I said, I'm not a nurse. I said, no, you'll be right. You just clip here and then pull them out with the tweezers.
Oh. So you pulled the staples out of his head. How long after? Oh, you didn't?
No, I couldn't do that.
Who did that?
We went down to the Nambour Hospital.
Ah, you got them to do it.
Them out. Yeah.
Okay.
But he allowed a student nurse to do it. Yeah.
So you went back to Montville then?
We came back to Montville.
And how was he then?
He was good. He was good. He was anxious all the time about why aren't they doing more? Why can't I have chemo now? What about radiation? And we Googled and we tried every alternative therapy. We read somewhere that drinking pawpaw juice made from fresh pawpaw leaves.
Yeah.
You stew up pawpaw leaves and then you drink the juice. And that cures brain cancer. So we were going around. This is how desperate you get. We were going around Palmwoods and Montville. Wherever we saw a yard with pawpaw, we'd go in, knock on the door. Can we have some of your pawpaw leaves?
Wow.
And we had the whole community
pawpaw leaves
for us to stew and drink.
That's great.
And that tastes worse than Mark's coffee. Yeah, you do everything.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah.
And he was in good spirits the whole time. He didn't ever get down on himself. He doesn't seem like the type of person that would.
No, I won't lie. He got down. Only in quiet moments and private moments with him and I. He never said, why me? But he said, I just don't understand. Of all the people, what did I do to deserve this? I said, what do you mean of all the people? And this is brutally honest, Matt. He said, there's people out there raping and murdering. He said, I've never hurt anyone intentionally that didn't deserve it. Mark was brutally honest.
Yeah.
He said, I just don't understand. And that was another, we can't ask that question because we'll never know the answer.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of things that are unfair in the world, isn't there?
Yeah. And one day we were standing on the back deck and it was me that was a bit down. And I must have been frustrated with the whole system. And I said, it's just not fair. Why is it us? We found each other late in life. We've both had a fair share of unhappiness in our lives. Why, when we've just got our stuff together and really wanting to help other people, having been through the smash and setting ourselves up for us to have a nice life together and help other people. And then we were dealt that blow. And Mark said, you know what, JJ? What about the kids that have got this shit in their head?
Exactly.
He said, how do the parents deal with it? He said, imagine if we had kids. How would we tell our kids? Our kids would grow up without a father. And he said, and there's people out there that are having to deal with that. He said, so, you know what? Let's look at this as if we've got 3 extra years. And that's the way we chose to look at it. He defied death in that car smash. So we looked at it as we had 3 extra years.
How long after that did Mark pass away?
9 months. Coming up to his anniversary in a couple of months.
Okay.
A couple of weeks.
Yeah. And was that a sudden thing or was that inevitable?
It was inevitable.
Yeah.
We didn't want to believe that. Mark never, to me, Mark never believed it. But again, he protected me. A girlfriend shared with me after his passing. Mark passed on the 25th of June. And in the April, he'd had a massive seizure, which is what usually comes with brain tumours. And he had a massive seizure. And he was hospitalised and he was asleep for quite a long time, like a couple of days. And the doctors prepared me that this was it, that Mark wouldn't wake up. And I just knew that he would, and he did. And he said, what's been going on? There's been a lot of noise. And that's when some really funny stories came.
Yeah, I bet.
And a girlfriend came up from Melbourne, and you know, my girlfriends would come and just, because Mark was a bit of a ladies' man.
Oh yeah.
And he, they would sit out on the deck and talk to him so I could get other stuff done. And they had great conversations with him. And Heather shared with me. And Heather is my friend of 20-some years. So Mark only met Heather through me.
Yeah. And
Mark said to Heather, two things. Firstly, he said, I'm ready to go. I'm okay with dying. I'm just not ready to leave Kerry. So that was his way of protecting me. He never told me that. Well, he did tell me that, but not, yeah. But he said to Heather in the April, after he came out of this sleep, again, defied the odds. He said, Heather, I need to ask you something. She said, of course. He said, after I've gone, can you promise me that you'll keep coming up and visiting Kerry?
That's lovely.
Of course I will.
Yeah.
Of course, when Heather told me that, I said, bloody hell, you're my friend.
He was just looking out for you.
Well, yeah, but I love that, that he loved my friends as much as I did, that he thought that they'd been in his life as well forever. Oh.
Don't not see Kerry anymore just because I'm going.
Yeah. Yeah. But he stayed relatively well. There were times when he's, because Mark was in palliative care, the number of times that I had to say to the doctors, can you treat Mark to live? Stop treating him to die. And I make no secret of that. Once you've been given a terminal, what do you call that, diagnosis, you're straight into palliative care.
Yeah, right.
And that doesn't mean going into hospital. That just means that they don't treat you to live, they treat you to die. They
down the
prepare
path
you for
of death. Yeah, got it.
Yeah, and we never lived like that. Where was I going with that? Living. Oh, help me, Matt. Where was I going?
So he's in palliative.
Yeah, he's technically in palliative care.
Yeah.
He and I noticed he was having a few more falls. We didn't worry about it too much because I was able to get him up. We worked out ways that he would pull himself up and I would lift him up, and he was still a big guy. He was still sitting around the 97 kilos.
Yeah, okay.
And tall as well. And then it was on the Tuesday night. He had a fall in the kitchen. He said he came out to get some ice cream, and it was just lucky that our fridge has a beeper that goes when your door's not closed.
Been left open, Wow.
He was on the kitchen floor in June, so it was cold.
Yeah. And
I couldn't lift him up. I could not get him up off the floor. He couldn't get himself up, the two of us together. So after 4 hours, I rang the ambulance to come and help me lift him up.
Yeah.
And get him back to bed. And we would pay, did we pay? Yeah. We were only allowed 3 hours respite a week, where a lady would come in and I would go off and do the shopping or go to yoga or do whatever I needed to do.
Have some you time. Yeah.
Yeah. And get the car serviced. Things like that. You forget those people. Yeah. And she arrived and I was so tired. I said, I'm going to go into the guest room and have a sleep. She said, okay. And I did that. Anyway, Mark had a fall and her and I could not get him up. We had to call the ambulance, and it turned out that his arm was broken up in that up part.
He fell on his shoulder.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
So his arm was broken. So they took him to the Caloundra Hospital. And from there, he stayed overnight. We both stayed overnight there. And the next day, they transferred him to Mullaney Hospital. And they told me that he had probably 6 weeks to live, that they wouldn't operate. It was too dangerous to operate on him. I didn't know at that time that the cancer, he was riddled in it. And so they put him in the Mullaney Hospital on the Thursday. And I was still able to get him in and out of a wheelchair. So he didn't go into a wheelchair until the Thursday.
Right.
It was a nice room and it had a door that we could go out into the garden, which we would. And it was on the Friday. He said, I don't want to be here. And we had discussed where he would die. And he chose to be in a hospital because he had donated his body to science, which you have to do before you die.
Yeah.
and he didn't want to die at home because he didn't think it was fair on me to, be in the home after he died here.
Got it.
And I said, well, I'm happy for you to die wherever you want to die. It's your choice. So that was it. So on the Friday...
Was that a hard conversation to have, or did you often talk like that?
No, we didn't often talk like that, but we did talk about
it. Was comfortable, yeah.
Yeah, and we talked about, both of us talked about what we wanted done with our bodies after we died. And we couldn't agree. He wanted one thing with his body. I wanted another thing with my body. And that concerned Mark, because he said, well, he wanted to be buried and I wanted to be cremated. And he said, but I don't want to lay in the cemetery on my own. I want you there with me. I said, It ain't happening, mate, And then, so we had many conversations about that. And then when it became, and that was before the brain cancer.
Okay.
But when it came to that, we realised that it didn't matter what we wanted with our bodies. It mattered to the person that survived.
Yeah, got it.
And then when Mark went through the process of donating his body to science, we learnt that the body has to be cremated.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, after they finish with your body.
Right, yeah.
It has to be cremated.
Okay.
Mark said, oh, well, that's that answered for.
In that case.
So, yeah, we'd had that conversation.
Got it.
Yeah, and we agreed that, well, if I died first, he gets to choose what happens to my body, and if he died first, I get to choose what happens to his body.
What did you choose?
His body was donated to science, his brain particularly, and his brain has already helped work towards finding a treatment for brain cancer.
That's awesome.
And I have his ashes, and I still have them.
Do you have a plan for them?
Do I have a plan?
Do you have a plan for them? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. They'll be spread where he asked me to spread them when I'm ready to spread them.
Okay.
After I take some of them and get a diamond made out of them.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Did he know you were going to do that?
Yeah, he was the one that found out that you could do it.
Oh, wow.
He said, well, I may not get the opportunity to buy you more diamonds in life. So you can make one out of my ashes. You only need a tablespoon.
Got it. Yeah. And is there, I don't want a detailed answer into this, and
No.
You don't have to answer any of these questions, but I'm really interested. Is it something significant you're waiting for before you spread his ashes? Or are you just waiting for the time to be right for you?
Yeah. There's been a couple of dates that I thought were right, and I've gone to the spot, but I haven't been able to do it.
What does it mean to you when you do spread his ashes? Does that symbolise something?
I don't know, Matt. I don't know. And it's odd because we had to do this for one of my brothers as well. And it was very important to me that my brother's ashes were spread quite quickly after his passing.
Why?
Because that would release him to freedom. But with Mark, it's different. And I feel almost guilty because I haven't released them in case I'm not releasing him to freedom. I don't know.
If he knew that you hadn't spread his ashes yet, how do you think he would feel about that? From what I get about the guy, he would be pretty cool and, probably couldn't care less, to be honest, as long as you were happy sort of thing. But
exactly. Like when I said to him, once we found out that I'd have him back as ashes, I said to him, you know, I might have to hold on to your ashes for a while. He said, that's all right. I said, hold on to them forever if you have to.
Whatever you need.
He said, I don't think it's going to matter after I'm ashes.
Exactly.
And I don't make a secret of it.
Yeah.
I don't go anywhere without a pouch full of them.
Wow.
And a note that he wrote me. It's in my every handbag. Everywhere I go, they're there.
Oh.
And not to be morbid.
No.
It's not. Yeah, I certainly don't get morbid about it. And yeah, for a couple of years, I couldn't say his name without crying. But now, and especially with the foundation, if I don't share the story, we're not going to move ahead.
Exactly.
So, and that's what Mark was all about. And that's what he asked me to do, to make sure that we move ahead and we make people aware, because we got no help.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. It's not that we didn't get help. People didn't know how to help.
So when you say spread the word, what exactly does that mean?
Make people aware.
Aware of what?
Of brain cancer and how severe it is, how many people it's killing. Because, and again, it comes down to money. Brain cancer gets 5% funding from the government. Of all the cancers, and I'm not pitching one cancer against another. Cancer is cancer. It's all shit. And I haven't got the figures right in front of me, but I do have the official documentation of how much money is allocated. Like when you give your $5 to buy a daffodil on Cancer Day, every cent goes into one pot. And then it gets divvied up. And breast cancer gets a certain percentage, prostate cancer gets a percentage, lung cancer and brain cancer get the least. Brain cancer gets 5%.
Got it.
Yet brain cancer is the #1 killer of people under 40. Of all the cancer,
brain cancer is
the highest.
Wow.
People under. So it's the biggest killer, but gets the least funds.
So, Kerry, your, I don't want to say mission, but it's the word I'm going to use. Your mission now is what? What's the end goal for you, if there is an end goal?
My goal is to build brain cancer awareness to the same level as breast cancer awareness. Because awareness then helps raise funds, and funds enables research, and research enables treatment.
And a cure at some point.
Yeah.
So over the last couple of weeks, tell me if I'm wrong, but brain cancer has had a lot of exposure. Would that be fair in saying?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, May is Brain Cancer Awareness Week, and it's people like Dr. Charlie Teo, who's put himself on the line. He's the #1 neurosurgeon in the world. He's doing surgery that other neurosurgeons won't touch, because Charlie, he wants to give people more life. He knows he can't cure them, but he can give them a few extra months of quality life. Whereas some other neurosurgeons, it's too risky and it's too expensive.
Yeah.
And because so many people are victims of brain cancer, more people are speaking out. More people are getting the courage to speak out and share their stories. And that's how breast cancer awareness started.
Mm.
I remember as a young girl, our neighbour died of breast cancer, and that was 31 years ago. No one knew about breast cancer. You didn't talk about it. You know, boobs were still covered up.
Yeah.
Yeah, boobs are sexy. So sex sells.
Show them off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and people got more courageous in sharing the stories. And that's what I'm seeing happening in the last 12 months, and particularly this last month. And celebrities, Carrie Bickmore, her first husband passed with brain cancer. She did the beanie thing. Jane Meredith from Secrets and myself worked together to do the diamond beanie to raise money for Carrie. The football, Mark Hughes, what's his name? The story of 60 Minutes last night. You know, so celebrities, yeah. We're starting a movement. As Richard Branson would say and said to me, Kerry, just start a movement. Get people to follow you. Start a movement, make noise.
And this beanie thing, it's really done that.
Sorry, I missed that.
The beanie thing really was a movement over the last few weeks.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's winter. I went searching because I'm going to the Senate inquiry tomorrow in Brisbane. And of course, we're all going to wear purple because Cure Brain Cancer is speaking for an hour and a half. So we're all wearing something purple. So I was everywhere over the Sunshine Coast this afternoon looking for a purple beanie.
How'd you go?
No, I've got a purple scarf I'll tie around my head.
How does it make you feel when, and I know that the NRL competition, the National Rugby League, really got on board with the beanies. How does it make you feel when you see everyone from the players running out on the field with beanies on to the commentators to the kids in the grandstand, everyone all wearing these beanies?
Proud.
How do you think Mark would feel?
Proud. Yeah, especially since he was a rugby league boy himself.
How do you think he would have felt seeing Paul Gallen with a beanie on?
Well, maybe he's all right.
He's all right after all. Exactly.
Oh, he'd probably say, he'd probably have a bloody whinge about that too.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no, look, I had this conversation with Richard Branson, and I said, I'm an ordinary person. I don't have a celebrity face, known face. I don't have the celebrity voice of the radio, but I've got to make a difference. And that's why I'm here on NECA, because you're the most influential person that I've been able to contact. And I'm sitting here once in a speedboat with him and once on the very lounge that he sat with Nelson Mandela.
Wow. One-on-one, you and Richard Branson.
And his wife.
Yeah.
Joan, having a cup of tea.
Yeah.
And
what sort of tea does Richard Branson drink?
PG tips.
PG tips?
It's an English tea bag.
Okay.
Yeah. And I said, how can I make a difference? How can I get people to listen? How can I get people to take notice without being a celebrity? He said, start a movement, start a rally. He said, no one knew me all the way back then. And that's how he started, made a movement, made noise.
So you're on the island for a week or a weekend?
No, 5 days,
5 days.
4 nights.
Because you did a big sort of travel thing in that time, didn't you? You didn't just go to Necker Island.
No, I didn't just go to Necker. I went to New York and Connecticut to spend time with a girlfriend and her husband and new son. And that's what it was for. I was going over to spend some time with them.
Got it.
They have a wine bar in Connecticut, and they're opening up their second one, and they've got an 8-month-old baby. And I said, I'll come over and look after the baby or help paint or whatever.
I'll drink your wine for you.
Yeah.
So how did you end up on Necker Island sitting next to drinking tea with Richard Branson?
Well, there was a group going. You know how things happen. You just meet the right person at the right time. And there was a group going, and I was invited to be part of that group of 34 entrepreneurs.
Right.
I said, but I'm not an entrepreneur. Yeah, when I think of entrepreneur, I think of Richard Branson And this lady said to me, well, you are actually, Kerry. You know, you've got your Beyond Brilliant Foundation and you've got your B&B and you've got this. And I went, well, I suppose I am, but I'm small fry, you know. I'm a country chick from Gympie.
That's right.
And I use that all the time. Mind you, I haven't lived in Gympie really since I was 15.
Yeah.
And she said, oh, you're underselling yourself. And I said, I'm not trying to sell anything. I've just got to make a difference in brain cancer. And she said, well, I said, well, when is it? And it was the 5 days that I was going to have in America that I had nothing to do.
Right.
And I was looking for something to do anyway. So I said, well, there you go. The universe has aligned the stars for me to be there.
Perfectly.
So I went. And I was lucky enough to have Richard and his wife live there permanently. And I was fortunate enough to share a very large, beautiful room that was right next door to Richard and Joan. And that beautiful lounge room called the Temple, where the elders were formed, and you see the photos and everything, that was essentially our lounge room.
Wow.
So one morning, I think it was the first morning we were there, I walked past what appeared to be a kitchen, and there was a lady in there. And I said, oh, hello, how are you? Can I help you with anything? And she said, well, I'm just making a cup of tea. Would you like to join me? I said, I'd love a cup of tea. She said, oh, come on in. And we sat down, and I could see this looked like a kitchen that would be yours or mine. But, you know, it just, yeah. Anyway, and I said, do you work on the island? She said, no. I said, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were one of the staff. And it was Joan.
Oh, how did that go down?
And well, she introduced herself, and of course, nobody ever sees a photo of her.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, I'm terribly sorry. I had no idea. And she said, well, I wouldn't expect you to know.
Yeah, exactly.
You like your tea? Do you have milk and sugar?
Wow.
Beautiful, beautiful woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, just down. They're both down to earth.
Exactly.
Great people.
So, Kerry, what was the takeaway from spending a week with Richard Branson? And I'm assuming lots of other amazing thought leaders in their industries.
I was going to say it was actually my personal takeaway came from the people that I shared that experience with. A little bit of each of them, but the big, in one sentence, my big takeaway is that I am enough.
That's cool.
Yeah. I went there thinking, oh, I'm not going to be able to make a big enough impact because I'm not a celebrity. I'm not well known. I'm not. I'm
just a girl from Gympie.
none of that's there anymore.
Mm.
And personally, I'd like to put that out to every single person, whatever it is. You are enough.
Mm.
There's no just in my world anymore.
I think if there was a place to end this this amazing chat, I think that's it. I want to thank you for being so honest and having just a great chat, Kerry. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate, of course, this chat, but also what you're doing now and over the next, the next amount of time that you're doing this and reaching the goals that you want to, and I'm sure Mark wants you to do as well.
Yeah.
So thank you for your time. It's been great.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for making it a real pleasure.
It's been fun.
Good. That's what it should be. That's Richard's number one thing in life. It has to be fun.
Well, this has definitely been fun.
Good.
Good on you, Kerry.
Thanks, Matt.
Talk soon. Bye.